This is the Subcommittee on Proposals on the Method for Selecting the Chief Executive in 2017. This is the third session of the meeting today, and the purpose of the meeting is to receive views from deputations and individuals on the proposals for the method of selecting the CE in 2017. We welcome deputations and individuals for coming, and we welcome you to the meeting. We will be receiving your views in a moment. I will be calling upon you according to the order assigned to speak. Every deputation or individual will have 3 minutes. We have a timer, and it will beep at the end of 3 minutes. And I would ask you to wrap up as soon as possible whatever you are saying by the end of those 3 minutes. If deputations and individuals have written submissions for us, please submit them to the Secretariat of the Legislative Council. I'd like to remind you that the public who are attending this meeting, when you speak to the subcommittee, you are not protected or exempted under the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance. That is also true for your written submissions. When you speak, I hope you will speak into the microphone. If you want to hear or other deputations clearly, please wear the earphone, and the meeting is held concurrently in English, Cantonese, and Putonghua. And also, please avail yourselves to the notice for members of the public attending this meeting or those who are in the public gallery. Please read the security measures in the notice. That notice has already been enclosed in the Secretariat's letter to you, and it is also tabled for your information. Members of the public who are in the gallery can also seek a copy of the notice from the security staff. Deputations and individuals, after you have spoken, I shall invite the Undersecretary for CMA to give a concise response. Depending on how much time we have, we can have questions from members. I'd like you to turn your devices that make a sound to the vibration mode or silent mode. First of all, I'd like to invite Mr. Lai Chi Sing to speak. I shall not read out the organization you represent. Thank you. Our stance is to support the proposals. The DAB supports the promotion of universal suffrage because of 4 principles. Number 1, the proposals are in line with the Basic Law. 2, they are in line with the August 31st decision by the NPCSC. And number 3, they are in line with Hong Kong's actual situation. And number 4, they are in line with the interests of the country. They are constitutional, fair, legal, and proper. And they are also unique because the NC will nominate candidates, and then there will be 1 man, 1 vote, so that the CE will have to be accepted by both the central authorities and the members of the public of Hong Kong. It is an innovative method for selecting the CE. If it can be carried, it will help resolve the long-term disputes in Hong Kong, so we can concentrate our energy on resolving our economic and livelihood issues. Constitutional development must have a life of its own, but now in Hong Kong we are faced facing different problems. So we'd like the proposals to be supported by 2/3 majority of LegCo, so 5 million eligible voters will be able to return the CE by one man, one vote in 2017. Legislators represent public opinion. You should really listen to the views of the public and implement your duties according to public opinion and carry this proposal. During the consultation period, opinion polls and editorials and also the media reflect public opinion, saying that the majority of the public support the proposals. I hope the public will continue to speak out, so continuous public opinion will urge the opposition camp not to deprive the public their right to return the CE by one man, one vote, so we can take our democratic development a step forward. I also like us to all forge a consensus in a pragmatic spirit so we can promote this proposal with Hong Kong characteristics so it can be carried. Thank you. Mr. Wong Kwong Ming. Good afternoon, Chairman. I represent stationery merchants in Hong Kong, and I will speak on the 2017 proposals. We believe the proposals put forward by the SARG fully reflect the spirit of the Basic Law and the August 31st decision of the MPCSC. It has brought representativeness and it balances the interests of all different sectors. It is constitutional and fair and very positive. All eligible voters in Hong Kong, 5 million of them, will be able to vote on the CE election. It is a great leapfrog step forward. This is a chance in a century, and we definitely support the proposals. If you understand Hong Kong's history, if you really have your heart in Hong Kong's long-term interest, you will understand that this is a landmark. It is a step towards democracy, and you will certainly support it. Those who object to the proposals should put their hands on their hearts. Why on earth would you want to reject this product of democratic development? If you only work for the interests of your party, if you only work for your own interests as politicians, and if you come up with species arguments and bundle the public on your own warrior vehicle, then you are belittling the Hong Kong people. You are slighting their wisdom. I don't think the public will want to fight like Don Quixote, because the enemy is only an imagined one. It is only in your mind. Now think about the joint declaration. It doesn't say anything about returning the CE by universal suffrage. It is added by the central authorities in the Basic Law. If the central authorities is not sincere, why should they go for it and create trouble for themselves? The SARG supports the serves the public. It would, of course, try to increase its own credibility and legitimacy, so governance will be made easier. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. It is impractical for you to achieve the final step overnight. So please do not imagine that there will be concessions from the central authorities, and please abandon your Cold War mentality and have the overall situation in Hong Kong in mind. Next, Mr. Lam Chi Ting. Our trade union supports the proposal. We have already submitted a submission, and I won't repeat what is said there. Some people say choosing the CE is like choosing your wife. I'd like to ask you this question. The Queen has been dumping a wife of a foreign nationality on you, and you could not even speak up. You could only swallow it. But now the mother is more democratic and she gives you the chance to choose your own wife. And they don't want you to choose the wrong person. But if you always say you want to divide up the family's assets, those girls, they say, should not be chosen. So it is for your own sake. If you are the mother, are you going to tell your son to choose a wife who will start fights with you every day? If you are the son, would you want to choose a wife who will put up so many fights that your father will die because of the trouble in your family? We should achieve harmony in the family. And moreover, you are not to swallow this. You have a choice. People say the mother is asking you to take a fake wife. You want a real wife. But then a wife is a wife as long as you register with the authorities and you talk about applying international standards to get a real wife. But you can't tell me what international standards are. Don't try to imagine a wife in virtual space. Some people say if you pocket it first, you are going to pocket it for life. But things change and they develop. This is scientific knowledge. Those who say that we are going to pocket it for life, is it that you don't know anything about common sense, or are you idiotic? Don't mislead the public. People say if you turn it down this time, you will have better choices. Don't you have are you saying you have a crystal ball in your hands? We cannot believe you. The 27 members who have bundled themselves together should not deprive the public of their vote. We want a vote. If you veto it, people have a discerning eye. They will know that you only go for fake democracy. We will not want you again if what we get is unrequited love. You will be swept out of the electoral at the next election. We want a quiet environment where people can live and work happily. Miss Phoebe Wong, please, order. Order, please. Please do not make noises. Chairman, Mr. Lau Kong Wah, with regard to the proposals released in April, our association supports it. First, we are of the view that the SALG has already done its best within limited space, and that is to operate within the August 31st framework. It has been looking for latitude under that framework so that there will be space for NCs to nominate different candidates. We think it is an advantageous package for candidates with a disadvantage because they can have enough nominations and they will be able to continue to electioneer because members of the NC will be able to nominate their own recommended candidates. They are also going to support at least 2 aspirants anonymously, and at most they can support all the aspirants.
We think this design and arrangement are a major step forward, and this has significantly enhanced the democratic elements in the election, so our society supports it. And secondly, for the government's proposals, for the nomination period and recommendation period, members of the public cannot take part. However, if the whole election is carried out in a transparent, fair and just manner, in particular, the procedures are all open, we think this is a very good civic education for the people. So we shouldn't focus too much on the proposals themselves and which political parties will be benefiting from it. We think if you look at it this way is tunnel vision, and this does not help democratic development in Hong Kong. As the CS said earlier, these proposals are not designed for a certain political force. Thirdly, for the present electoral system, the greatest problem is that, well, for the NC, or previously it was called the EC, in the past it was operating in a closed manner. If the President's proposals are passed, we think there is a huge advantage. That is, all members of the public, members from different political parties will be able to learn from each other under this new system, and this is a true universal suffrage, and then democracy will continue to develop. We believe that if Hong Kong in the long run does not have a proper system, then everything will be castle in the air. So these are our views concerning the April proposals. Next, Ms. Tam Wai-man. When we look at the proposals when it comes to the formation and composition of NC, the electoral methods, the government has actually put forward the best proposals in accordance with the basic law and the A3 decision. Everything is constitutional. So we know that everything we decide on has to be based on the actual situation. Lately, I've been talking with my classmates about these proposals. They say that this proposal should be vetoed. They say that this is a fake universal suffrage. They say that there's no civic nomination, so that's why it's a fake universal suffrage. Well, we shouldn't be arguing over this. That is whether it's fake or not. We need proposals which are the best for Hong Kong, and it should be constitutional. It should be practical and pragmatic. Otherwise, it would just be castle in the air, and people would just be misled and deprived of their right to vote. Well, we have a high degree of autonomy, but not full autonomy. So people should not be confused. People are now asking for something outside the legal framework. And some people say that if you pocket it now, you pocket it for life. I don't know what kind of logic is that. I think this is totally misleading. Some people say that if you pocket it now, it will not have democratic development. I think for every constitutional reform, you need to fix the first step. And through these constitutional proposals, I think we should need to take the first step, and this is a major breakthrough. If we ask people to veto it, it does not help the democratic development of Hong Kong, and it will deprive people's rights to one person, one vote. There shouldn't be only slogans. The opposition does not come up with proper methods for selecting the CE. So I think the Pan-Democrats just say no because they want to say no, and this is really passive. They use radical ways to do it. For example, they bundling to veto the constitutional reform, and they haven't come up with any constitutional methods that are practical. For the objectors, they do not want Hong Kong to have universal suffrage. They are afraid that if CE is elected this way, then it will have the people's mandate, and the Pan-Democrats would lose their popularity. In 2017, the government, if these proposals are passed for the 2017, the government will review the election methods afterwards, and improvements will be made. So I hope the government will continue to promote the proposals, and it should also come up with practical ways so that people will have more confidence in these proposals. Poon Kwok Ching. I hope that in 2017, Hong Kong can really implement universal suffrage for the selection of the CE. I believe this is what most Hong Kong people want. For selecting the CE by universal suffrage in 2017 is stated in the basic law and is what the central authorities are giving to Hong Kong people. This is a rare opportunity. After the second round of public consultation, we are seeing these new proposals. The Hong Kong government has listened to the views of the people. It has forged consensus with the people, and now the recommendation threshold has been lowered. And these are all in line with the basic law and the 831 decision. All stakeholders' comments have been taken into account. I believe most people will support universal suffrage. I hope that we can both work together so that we can select our CE by universal suffrage in 2017. But we need to have these proposals passed by the Legislative Council. If that does not happen, then we will suffer a standstill. We'll continue to discuss forever, and that is a waste of time. The 5 million voters should be allowed to take part in politics so that they can select their own CE, and then the CE will be held accountable for all these people. I am a professional accountant. I know that when you take examination for a certain professional qualification, you need a progress. You cannot achieve it overnight. You have to go through a lot of procedures, and it takes a very long time. You have to accumulate experiences. So I would like to ask the electoral members to give Hong Kong people this opportunity. That is, they should accumulate the experiences of selecting their CE, and we should start the democratic progress. As a young person, I know that if the proposals are vetoed, the legislators who veto the proposals can only ensure that voters will not be given their vote in 2017. And for these legislators, they cannot ensure that in 2022 whether our CE will be selected by universal suffrage by our 5 million voters. I hope that you can cherish the 5 million voters. Mr. Tang Pinson. Thank you, Chairman. As for our trade union, we totally support the government's proposals. These proposals are complying with the basic law and is in line with the A31 decision of the NPCSC. In Hong Kong, the rule of law is very important. This is legitimate. This is constitutional. I don't understand why we do not support it. Some speakers said just now that over the past 100 years, Hong Kong people didn't have the right to elect their own chief, and now we are all given a vote to select our own CE. We didn't have the right in the past. Now we have it. How come some people can say that they are representing the 5 million people and they actually deprive the 5 million people of their vote? Thirdly, some people also said just now when we start, things are not perfect. We have to evolve. We have to improve. That's Hong Kong's history over the past 100 years. And that's why Hong Kong is such an international city nowadays. It takes time to improve. You have to discover problems on the way, and you have to solve them and then make improvements. Now, we have had a history of over 100 years. We are always saying that we should keep abreast with the times. Times are changing. We have to change as well. This also includes political reform proposals. You can see that in other countries, they are also progressing. They will look at their own society situation, the voices of their people, their aspirations, their culture, and then they would make changes accordingly. They would not implement a system, and then that system will stay there forever. So some legislators are saying that if you pocket it now, you pocket it forever. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about the history of Hong Kong? Has Hong Kong remained the same in the past century? Hong Kong has been improving. We should find out the problems, and then we solve these problems, and then we will move forward. So I think we should come to a consensus, and then we can all move forward. I hope that our legislators, I hope over 2/3 of them will support the proposals so that the 5 million voters in Hong Kong can select their CE by universal suffrage in 2017, because we have been waiting for a very long time. We didn't have it in the past. Now we have it. Why can't we be given this opportunity? Fukaho? Well, for those who support or oppose the proposals, I think the deputations here will all express their views. I'm not going to talk about a lot of details. Just now, Mr. Lam said that when you choose your wife, you have to consider your family members' views. Otherwise, there will be a lot of disputes. And then a lot of the representatives here clapped their hands, because I think what Mr. Lam said was absurd. When we date, when we fall in love with some person, of course, it's our own interest. We look at our own interests. Can we get along with that person? Are we happy when we are with that person? But if you have to look at other people's feelings, then what kind of love is that? I've heard a lot of people say that if this constitutional package is vetoed, then the 5 million voters will be disappointed because after 2 years they cannot select the CE by their own vote. We have looked at a lot of opinion polls. Many of the findings reveal that the number of citizens opposing these proposals are now getting higher and higher. So have we reached a consensus in society? I really query it. Now, for those who support the proposals, no matter what proposals the government put together, they would support them. The government may make revisions here, minor revisions here or there. If the government can really make major amendments so that those who oppose the present proposals can support the new proposals, then why doesn't the government do it? 689 always says that if the proposals are vetoed, Hong Kong people would have to face a very serious consequence. Yes, that is true, because many people like us who object to the government proposals would get very angry. Last year we had the umbrella movement, and we expect it will happen again. Our society will be torn apart even more. So at that time, will people be happy? Next, Mr. Chan Kwok Heng. Thank you, Chairman. I'm the Secretary for an alliance that does not support the present proposals. Well, the chairman of this subcommittee says that some of the organizations' names are not dignified, so that the names are banned. Well, I think the chairman's face is even more undignified. Well, Mr. Tam made such a decision, and it actually reflects how bad the NC will be. The chairman says that we do not have dignified names, so that's why he has asked. He does not allow us to show our organizations' names here. Well, for the DAB, they are saying that they are a democratic organization, but do they really support democracy? I don't think so. That's the same for the NC. The NC members would only select people that they favor. And it's exactly like what you said about your mother choosing the wife for you is for your own good. No, thank you. I don't want that. We want free love. We will be responsible for choosing our own wives. We do not want our parents to be responsible. And if I have chosen a wrong wife, I can always divorce her. And if we have selected a wrong CE, we can vote him out the next time.
Some people say by pocket eating first, it doesn't mean you are to have it for life. We want universal suffrage in 2017. But then, in fact, we had wanted it in 2007. That was written into the Basic Law. Why are we still fighting for universal suffrage in 2017? Because the central authorities has reneged on its promises in the Basic Law. How can we trust you if we do not have actual legislation? So we insist that we object to the proposals. We should also declare war on the SARG. We will have to veto the proposals. I want real universal suffrage. That's it. Please do not applaud. Mr. Yip Chi Hin. Thank you, Chairman Tam. I represent a group. I don't know why I have to speak as an individual. My group is called How Sad Life Is, but then you say it is not a solemn name. I think it reflects reality in our society. I heard from a trade union that society will advance and we need to keep up with the pace of social development. That's correct. Then why would CY Leung not give 50 cents more in statutory minimum wage? Are we beggars? Why doesn't the trade union speak on behalf of the employees and workers? Do you only represent high society workers? We have high property prices and livelihood stuff. You represent grassroots. You say, are your grassroots very rich? I always go to Sham Shui Po and I know what grassroots mean. And universal suffrage is related to livelihood. Why should we want this package? If a trade union or Mr. Lam will be elected, then too bad. It is a curse. And if you elect Mr. Tam, will you give the employees 50 cents more? Just look at the bureau directors. How much do they earn? If you would just share your salaries with the workers, they do not have to be under a curse. Please do not use foul language. Is it that you will report to the police? You will always resort to the police. I will ask working staff to take you out. And where will they take me? To a police station is all right. Okay, let us talk about the proposals. Ever since the class boycott, it has been half a year or a year already. You talked about the proposals and realistic considerations. Actually, this public hearing is quite meaningless because we are just rehashing the old points. I think we are just here to air our grievances and to support the so-called pan-democrat members so they can veto the proposals. What I want to say is if officials will go to the districts again, don't be so stealthy. Reporters should be notified so Kai Fongs can contact them. So my friends do not have to play their roles by mimicking their act. I think a citizen who tore up your pamphlets actually was listening to music on his device. And why do you still want to give him a pamphlet? So he tore it out. And this officials should not refrain from going to the districts. You should allow room for discussion. Now I'd like to sing a song. We do not shy from difficulties. I love Hong Kong. Please do not make noises. Order, please. Silence, please. Next, Ms. Pong Hiu Yan, please. Silence, please. Or order. Can I now make a noise? Yes, it is your time to speak. Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon. I'm one of the 5 million people. When you talk about 5 million people reaching a consensus, first of all, let us look at whether our neighbor thinks the same as ourselves, so you know whether there is a consensus on the proposals. I don't think there is a consensus in society. The opinion polls are telling us that those who support and object to the proposals are quite substantial in number. When you say there is consensus in society, when you say 5 million people want the proposals passed, I don't know where that comes from. I myself think that there should be a choice. But if you endorse the proposals, do you think you really want to make it happen? I'd like to show you a video, but if you can't watch it, you should still listen to it. You should know it very well already. Can you hear it? It is an API on asking the public to support the proposals. It is a parody, actually, on the government's API, asking the public to support the proposals. We will pretend to listen to the public, so we will have handsome salaries. To me, if the proposals are supported, that will be the end for us. And I think maybe the task force has in mind the same thing as shown in the video. I don't know why you want to insist on having a proposal within the August 31st framework. Somebody said this is likened to picking your wife. But then what does it mean? Are you talking about bodily measurements? If you still want to ask people to pick a wife under that framework, some people will say, I don't want to get married. I want to be a monk instead. And you should allow people to be a monk. However, you say if you don't do it, other people will pick a wife for you. You can't be a monk. Even if you are a monk, people will dump a wife on you. And society and strangers will be picking a wife for you. The 5 million people will not have a consensus, but still we want to pick your wife for you. It's so ridiculous. How come picking a wife and returning the CE can be as ridiculous? Next, Mr. Chen Kin Chun. Order, please. Order, please. Do not clap. Do not clap anymore. Mr. Chen Kin Chun. Thank you, Chairman. First, I support that all eligible voters should be able to return the CE by one man, one vote. I also agree that the NC should be the only institution making nominations. I agree making it easier for aspirants to enter the race without making the number too big. All people who have the aspiration should be able to take part. But then the biggest discrepancy in society now is not about universal suffrage or one man, one vote, but rather the mechanism for people to enter the race and for the NC to name or nominate candidates. Now, with this proposal, it would be easier for aspirants to get the support of different sectors in the NC, and the minority politicians can also enter the race. I hope there will be more forums so NC members can know public opinions, and so they will be influenced by public opinions. This will help to allay the public's worries. I can't agree with some criticism saying that if you pocket it first, it will mean you would pocket it forever. I believe the administration, of course, should face up to this and explain how you can optimize the proposal and guarantee that if it is supported, there will still be enough opinion polls so the public has confidence that you will continue to optimize the universal suffrage proposals. Next, Mr. Chen Chi-kin. Good afternoon. I represent a group. I don't know why Mr. Tam Yu Chong banned the name of that group. The group is called it is the Alliance for Making It Happen in 2017 Anti-West, and I'm the chairman of the group. I don't know why that group's name is a problem. Secondly, I'd like to thank Mr. Lau Kong-wah, the Undersecretary, for coming to listen to us. His monthly salary exceeds $180,000 or $6,000 per day. It is more than what I earn per month. Because I am unemployed, I'm a chronically ill person, I do not have any money, but you get $6,000 every day, so you get $180,000 every month. But too bad, you can't vote to elect the members of the NC because you don't belong to the 4 sectors. I don't think you belong to any of the sectors making up the NC. Unless you are a district council member or a legislator. Coming back to the CE election, why is the CE an important person? Because you don't only elect the CE per se. After he is returned, he will be appointing his officials. And I think that's also a vote of trust. Like with 689, we have the Undersecretary, Mr. Lau Kong-wah. So the CE himself is important because he will be responsible for the governance of Hong Kong and the operation of the entire government because he appoints all the accountability officials. If we do not have a good CE, the officials will not be good either. How can the government function. And also the NC will have to act according to public opinion in making nominations. If you look at the August 31st framework, actually the NC nomination is already a primary. Why is it that since the majority of us cannot return people to the NC, why would the NC be given the right to give us bad apples, so we vote on the bad apples? I just don't understand it. Also, the devil is in the details. The nomination procedure of the NC is to be by secret ballot. I don't understand why that is so. The members of the NC may get advantages and they would make the nominations. However, we cannot trace anything. Why can't we do it as now? Sorry, I might have got it wrong. Because that is not the present method. But we are talking about 1,200 people only. Next, Mr. Leung Hoi Fu. Chairman, I will be blunt. Before I go into the topic itself, I may have to voice the grievances of some of my colleagues here. Some compatriots actually say they are accusing that the names of their groups are not acceptable because they are not solemn. The Liberal Party is pro-establishment and the Democratic Party is going to be pro-establishment. So, Mr. Tam Yu Chung, you would nod and support it. But you must remember there must be diversity in the Legislative Council. If you say the names of the groups are not solemn enough and you screen them out, and even you screen out the persons, this is a blasphemy for democracy. You may say this is not the topic. Why? Today you screen out the names of the groups. Later on, you will screen out candidates from the Democratic camp. If this can happen today and yet you tell me the Pan-Democrats can enter the race, no one will believe you. That is all for jokes. Now I'll go into the topic under discussion. First of all, nomination rights. Basically, my party will not support the August 31st framework. The reasons are in our submission. I won't repeat it. But people also liken this to picking your wife. Then I might have to tell those uncles and other people in their camp that, sorry, I want a husband, not a wife. I support homosexual marriages. It's just that the central authorities will not allow it. If the central authorities will not allow it, what is left of my future? How can I walk to the end of my life with my partner? Well, really, next I'm going to make a positive proposal. I will be frank with you. The ideal situation will be if you get 2% of signatures from all voters, and if people can pay a deposit, these people should be able to become a candidate in the CE race. There shouldn't be a cap, but then there should at least be 2. What is important, of course, is the vote. People are trying to brainwash me that one man, one vote is something good. But even a 5-year-old child will know there is a place with one man, one vote. That is in the MTR stations. We have one man, one ticket. Why is it that so strange?
Please keep quiet. Order. So either you go to either is the fire or is the deep blue sea. What will you choose? Please, order, please. I am the convener of a group that collects rubbish. I don't know how come our name is banned. And Mrs. Fanny Law says that the people should give universal suffrage a chance. But this is such a poor proposal. Why are we supposed to accept it? Why are we deprived of our rights? The government always says that in the future there is room for improvement. However, there's no timetable, no roadmap. How can we trust you? Even though the proposals may be revised in the future, however, the government says that it will have to stick to the Pt3 decision. So what room is there for improvement? That's it. Next, Hong Ka-Yao. Chairman, I am the convener of a group with a very long name. However, Mr. Tam didn't like my group's name, so it's banned. I wonder if you have heard a song, and I have decided to sing this song for you. Well, what if the proposals are vetoed? What will happen? How can you turn a chicken into a duck? And now you're proposing these package, and it's exactly like turning a chicken into a duck. And it's just like those subdivided units residents. You kick them out of the units, but you are not rehousing them. What would happen? So I have seen many examples like this. Why do you want me to pocket this first? How can I use a pencil that's broken? How can I eat noodles that are not cooked? Why do I have to accept these proposals which are not acceptable? You say that you are going to different districts to listen to the views of people. Have you done that? You just drove to different districts on buses, and you are asking people to erect street stands to promote universal suffrage, but they don't even know what universal suffrage is. I am now reciting a poem that I write, and I am not an intellectual. I'm just a grassrooter. So I really don't know how to wrap up my speech. I will just cite what Mr. Wong Kwok Heng said, that is, shut the hell up. Order. Mr. Merchant Kid. Chairman, it's me. Do you recognize me? You don't recognize me. I am the curator of a group. That is, students have waken up. Now I have changed my group's name, but you do not like my group's name. My group's name includes Industrial Association, and if you do not like this kind of name, you shouldn't let DBA come. Well, you say that our name is not dignified. Is this meeting a dignified meeting? If so, how come Lau Kong Wah, the rubbish bin, is here? It's so unhygienic. You are afraid that we will say foul language here? This is a rubbish assembly, and you can't even tolerate an organization's names. You say that this is a public hearing. You want to listen to our views. Well, you should be more sincere. Mrs. Carrie Lam went to districts. They were just riding on open deck buses. How could she talk to people like that? This is just like a monkey show, and it's like a circus. I want to come here to see how you are staging your circus. You have asked these stupid people like Chow Yong to help you. This is totally unacceptable. I just watched the news. They say that the DSE, that is the examination, will have its examination fee increased. I think that is crazy. And just now, Mr. Tam also asked us to silence our mobile phones. Yes, mobile phones have to be silenced, and we even also have to be silenced. So now you're saying that you thank the central authorities for giving us universal suffrage. Then you have to thank the U.S. for giving us McDonald's, and you want to thank Japan for giving us sex movies. Well, I am here I don't want to waste my time talking to you. I really like a person who's called Banana Milk because he sings really poorly. However, even though he's not good at singing, he's bold enough to sing. Oh, please pay attention to your language. I just said that your mother raised you. If you continue to use that Cantonese pun on foul language, I will kick you out. We just want to do what we want to do. I think your mother has raised you. Now, if you continue to say that, I'll kick you out. It's great. Now 3 minutes are up. Order, please. Now, I want to tell you, if you speak foul language or you want to use pun, I have already warned you a number of times. If you do this again, I will ask you to get out. Next, Ms. Cho Wing-yin. Chairman, good afternoon. I'm very unhappy that how come my group's name is banned. It's called study. There's a study group on using colloquial language to ask 689 to shut up. And well, Mr. Wong Ko-heng also asked people to shut the hell up. I don't understand how come you think that's undignified. Even our group's names are screened out, so how can you ensure that the proposals are not screening some candidates out? Some people say that selecting the CE is like picking a wife. Well, first of all, I will not pick a wife. And if universal suffrage is likened to picking a wife, that we know how much importance you are attaching to the selection of the CE. So you just belittle universal suffrage. As for the Pt3 decision by the NPCSC, I don't really understand it. The Hong Kong government does not necessarily have to follow the Pt3 framework. When it comes to implementing universal suffrage, and you now have this proposals, and this proposal was totally in line with the Pt3 framework. So what's wrong with you? You don't have to do that. And also, that's one thing I want to say. I come here because I want to see Kong Wah baby. I really like you. No. Well, when Mrs. Carrie Lam met with the Federation of Students, when she was making nonsense, and you just sat there keeping quiet, I really respect you. I really want a boyfriend like you. Thank you. Next, Mr. Chung Lai Him. I represent a Kai Phong group which supports real universal suffrage. I am happy that Mr. Tam has not banned our group's name. Actually, this is the third public hearing that I've attended. Well, I want to say that we do not want to accept fake universal suffrage because we cannot give a false mandate to the CE elect. Now let me talk about Chinese history. Just now the gentleman said that mother would pick a wife for his son. Well, first of all, you have to find out whether that is your real mother. Hong Kong has a history of over 100 years, and the Communist China only has a history of 60-odd years. So how can it be our mother? When Mao Zedong commented on Sun Chung-san, he said that he would inherit the will of Mr. Sun Yat-sen. And what has he inherited? I only see corruption. Well, for the pan-democrats here, well, I don't know if some of you will change your direction at the end. Will you vote for the proposals? Will you believe in the things the Communist Party said. In the past, the Communist Party joined with another small party to overthrow the Kuomintang. And what happened? For this small party, yes, it's one of the parties in Beijing, but it's totally silenced. Sun Yat-sen said that we should have the rights to elect and so on. But now we are just asking for this humble right of selecting our own leader, and we are not given it. You are saying that the basic law cannot be changed. For the PRC, they have announced 4 constitutions in its history. They were not amending it. They were 4 different constitutions. And even for the present constitution, it's been amended 4 times. How can anyone say that the basic law cannot be amended? Even China's constitution can be amended. So how come we cannot touch the basic law? How come we cannot amend the basic law so that it can really cater for the needs of Hong Kong people? And now we are being so rude to the government officials. It's because they do not deserve to be our government officials. I would like to remind you that the CE is paid by Hong Kong's taxpayers. However, I have never heard that a boss cannot recruit his own employees. The pro-establishment camps say that now this is a universal suffrage, but we only have an NC of 1,200 people, and it's a small circle so-called election, and if you just change your name from EC to NC, you haven't changed anything. We want civil nomination. If there's no civil nomination, the so-called one person, one vote is meaningless. In Hong Kong now, there is a popular culture that is screening out. For example, the government officials would go to Lai Kok estates saying that they want to talk to the people, but they just talk to the supporters. They haven't heard any opposition voices because they've screened out those people who oppose them. And also, Mrs. Carrie Lam went to Kennedy Town without informing body and without informing anybody. And the government just issued photos of the CS talking to her supporters. So there's a lot of screening. The government is incapable. It lies all the time, and it doesn't protect the basic rights of Hong Kong people. How can it lead Hong Kong? We can only change it by having a universal suffrage, which consists of civil nomination. The electoral secretariat called me saying that my group's name is indignified. My group's name is study group on colloquial language. I'm very angry at that. As for my group, it has really existed, and I had to play a number of roles there, so I didn't have the time to promote it. Well, this is a dignified hearing, so I will not say any foul language. But I want to express my dissatisfaction with the chairman and the CE. Why don't you both shut the hell up?
Good afternoon. The name of my group is also very undignified. And in fact, I will wait for Mr. Tam yourself to give yourself a slap on the face, because the name of my group is just one word different from the other group which you allowed. The task force trio went to the districts. They would make a flash appearance at the MTR station. They would shake the hand of one citizen and then let the photographer take a photo, and then they would go. Or they would stay on the upper deck of a bus So I'd like to ask you, are you going to the districts? But then we mimic the trio, and we also go to the districts to explain to the public why this is a fake proposal. Every time the SCMA would walk with me wearing orange. Can you do that all the time? What is your view, Mr. Chairman? What is your view, Chairman? You are directly elected. Well, I know you won't have a view. There are many such legislators holding sinecure posts. The government said civic nomination will return candidates which oppose the central authorities. But if central authorities will announce policies that hurt the interests of Hong Kong people, then a CE who has high popularity should defend Hong Kong's interests and protest to the central authorities. Dongjiang water comes from the mainland. It has wasted $5 billion of Hong Kong people's money. Why do we have to foot the bill? The basic law says that the NC must exist, and in the end, it should be broadly representative. We have 7 million people in Hong Kong and 5 million eligible voters, but they cannot form the NC. Well, amend the basic law. You are not happy to do it. But with regard to co-location for the high-speed train, you may be reinterpreting the basic law. That's all. Thank you. Next, Mr. Chen Hiu-young. Thank you, Mr. Tam. I am not allowed to use my group's name. It's all right. Just like your party, you call yourself the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment of Hong Kong, but in the end, you just jump to or dance to the music of the central authorities. Chairman, please silence them and let me have my time. Well, it's all right. People say I'm tough. I look like Carrie Lam, but I am not tough. I would ask the policeman to be tough. Let us look at the 7 policemen. Please do not use foul language. I have already said that those who use foul language will be regarded as having misconduct. I will now ask the working staff to take Mr. Chen Hiu-young out. You won't allow me to speak? I already warned you that you should not use foul language. I already warned you not to use foul language. Working staff, please take him out. Please take him out. Since I have already issued a warning, you must stop speaking. Take him out. Next, Mr. Chu Wai-chung. Yeah, give them back the access card. Mr. Chu, please wait, please wait, please wait. Keep calm. Even Mrs. Carrie Lam has been taken out. It's all right. Now you can start the clock ticking. You can start the timer. Thank you. I will not thank you, Chairman, because you are shameless. So many young people are here, and the group names are so creative, and yet you screen them out. I think you are even doing better than Jasper Zhang. 5 years ago, there was the 5-district referendum, and today was the voting day. Mr. Wang Yukman said then that was the declaration of the referendum. Maybe Alan Leong would remember it, and he said, this is your main stage today. And I want to use that as our group's name because we want to tell Mr. Lau Kong-wah we are most unhappy with the proposals, and we ask Lau Kong-wah and the task force trio to step down right away. But Mr. Tam, you ban all the names of the groups. I think you are even better than Jasper Zhang. Enter the race of CE, never mind. But without civic nomination, you can't be returned as a candidate because you are too much of the establishment camp. Mr. Lau Kong, while you won't respond to us, but then I would say this to you. I will quote the editorial of Xinhua Ribao a few decades ago. I think Mr. Tam has heard Mr. Longhair many times. What is universal suffrage? Universal suffrage is not just the right to put a vote, and actually the right to stand in election should also be equal and fair. All people should enjoy the same election right and the right to stand as a candidate. Given a wide interpretation, universal suffrage means that there is a right to vote and also a right to stand in the election. If the right to stand in an election is limited, then your voting right would also be limited. And we will not be able to make effective use of the voting right because there will be deprivation in an unfair manner of the right to stand in a candidate as a candidate. If some people are deprived of their right to be a candidate, then those who have voting rights will not be able to vote. So if there is no civic nomination, according to the editorial of Xinhua Ribao, Mr. Tam, you cannot elect the CE because you cannot receive civic nominations. A few dozen young people from different groups are here. Maybe their groups only have one person, but they all represent young people who are protesting against this unfair system. Some people take you and also the Civic Human Rights Front to task, but they are young people with ideals. Mr. Tam, why do you ban the group names? You called us up a few days ago saying the crop have revised the rules. You are also the chairman of the crop. Shouldn't you think about conflict of interest? Okay, you should stop now because time is up. Please stop. Please stop. Many of you ask why you cannot come under the names of your groups. Sorry, the speaker has not come through to the interpreters. Please stop. Stop talking. Just now, many of you asked why we wouldn't allow you to come in the name of your groups. The Secretariat has explained to you why. As chairman, I have that right. Order, please. Order, please. I will not argue with you further. Next, Mr. Chang Pui-lun. Can I start? Please start. Chairman, I also belong to a group, the Alliance on Audio Tapes on 2017. Well, what is wrong with that name? I don't use foul language. I don't say shut the hell up like Mr. Wang Kwok-heng said. I don't know why the chairman and the secretariat turned it down. The CS4A, Mrs. Carrie Lam, always mentioned the August 31st framework. We really praise the CS4A for doing her very best to protect her boss. As the representative of my group, I will use the language that we have always used. Under the framework of the August 31st MPC decision, the 2017 universal suffrage for the CE will say there would only be a small circle of candidates, and the NC represents only 4 sectors, not everybody. Under the framework of the MPCSC, the Hong Kong society should follow Xi Jinping's saying that there should not be separation of powers but cooperation of the powers. And under the framework of the MPCSC, even if there is overrun of the budget of the high-speed railway, we need to pick up the tab even if there is an overrun of the budget. But then the public have to foot the bill. The directors of bureau and other officials always mention the NPCSC framework. Are you really serving the people of Hong Kong, or do you serve the NPC? The NTNE and the high-speed railway are going forward regardless of opposition. If that's the case, you will only have a CE like CY Leung, who is a sycophant towards the CCP. This is because we have a small circle. In that small circle, how many of them represent the public? There are 900,000 poor people in Hong Kong, more than 10% of the total population. Out of the 1,200 people of the NC, how many represent the poor? You always say if we veto it, there will be a lot of consequences. You mean the consequences about how much money you can get? You can't even give us a timetable. And you dump the responsibility on the future CE. It will be like the XRL. Let us start with it. Never mind. Even if there is an overrun of the budget, so what? We are giving you all our money, but you, what do you give us back? Excrement. If you can't perform your sexual function, then does it mean you are neglecting your wife? Mind your language. But then you have deprived me of 5 seconds. I need it back. Okay, time is up. Please stop talking. Next one. This is not the time for you to speak. You have to follow the rules or else I will ask you to go out. Mr. Luk Wai Sam, on the 22nd of April, the proposals were announced and C.Y. Leung and the trio came to Mei Fu to promote it right away. Mei Fu is actually a benchmark for Hong Kong property prices, and also Mei Fu became the focus. I'm from Mei Fu, and I think we are feeling that too much has been bestowed on us. That is really because you use public money to manufacture public opinion. I don't know whether you have got the consent of the owners, but you used the space between phase 3 and phase 4. You used the security guards paid by us in order to support your staging of a show. You also got people to pretend that they were residents. We are very angry about your show. Mei Fu should not be turned into props for your rotten proposals. You say you go to the districts, but then you are hijacking public opinion. You are ramming it down our throat. It's not just Mei Fu. You can see people object to the proposals when officials go to the districts. It goes to show that the proposals are not supported by the majority of the public. If you say you emphasize bottom-up consultation, the Mei Fu Concern Group is here to represent the views of residents. We are a district organization working on local issues. We support bottom-up district autonomy. As for the proposals, we have the following views. Number one, the first round consultation does not represent our opinion. Number two, we strongly object to the MPC framework. Any option based on it will not give us real universal suffrage. Number three, we will strongly reject the pocket it first because it represents a retrograde step in democratic development because it doesn't give real choice to the public. And number four, those who are not here today, especially the legislators, we urge you to veto it. Let us restart the consultation on constitutional development. Next, Ms. Han Kin Ying.
My group also objects to the universal suffrage. And before I came here today, the electoral secretariat also told me that the chairman said that our group's name is undignified. We think that we are not respected by the chairman. Well, how come you just say that you don't like it and our group name would have to be screened out? We just want to come here to talk about people's right to elect our own CE. Now, what about our group's name? We think that our group's name is that the 2017 universal suffrage so-called universal suffrage will surely die. It doesn't not include any foul language. And we are not humiliating the Legislative Council. You have banned a lot of group names. I think you should apologize to them. Because we didn't know anything, but the electoral discriminates against us. So this reflects that the whole governments, the whole NC and the CE are afraid of the people because you do not have people's mandate, and the CE only has 689 votes. So that's why he is afraid of the people. He just wants to listen to those voices that favors him. And on TV, we see the 2017 proposals API every day is ridiculous. Now, for you're all sitting in air-conditioned rooms. Do you know that there are still old people that have to be scavengers in order to make their ends meet? Do you know people that? Do you know that some people are now living in 30 square feet toilets? Now you are spending our taxpayers' money on big elephant projects. You have never cared for people's livelihood. How come we do not have standard working hours? How come we do not have universal retirement protection? Well, Chairman, if you still have a conscience, you should ask your DAB not to humiliate the word democracy anymore, because in you are called a Democratic Alliance for the betterment of people's livelihood. Don't use the word democratic because you are just insulting the word. And our group call on the people not to believe the lies of the task force trio. You should insist that we have a true universal suffrage. That's it. Next, Mr. Yang Xiutong. First of all, I want to condemn the government because you are using unjustifiable reasons to ban my group's name. My group's name is that you pro-establishment camp. Give me a break. I think my group's name is very dignified because the pro-establishment camp has never given us a break. So that's why I always have to come out to tell you what my views are. Now, on the 31st of August last year, the NPCSC set out a framework, and it has imposed a lot of restrictions on our universal suffrage. In 2012, we had never heard of such restrictions. So it has Liang Chen-ying violated China's rules. Now, you are saying that there's no universal suffrage anywhere in the world, or there's no civil nomination anywhere in the world. Well, for the pro-establishment camp, have you really forgotten that there were indeed civil nominations when you were elected? Now, somebody has invented this fake universal suffrage, so we have to tell what is fake and what is real. Or, for example, some people have invented fake soy sauce. So now people, when they see a real bottle of soy sauce, they will say it's real. So because someone has invented fake soy sauce, now you have invented fake universal suffrage. I would like to ask the Undersecretary Lau Kwang-wai a question. Here we have a fake banknote, and I want you to pocket it. It someday may become a real banknote. Would you pocket it? What's your response? Oh, no response from you. That's okay. Because you have always been a very good listener. You were Listener of the Year in 2014. So after decades, this will still be a toy banknote. It would never become a real banknote. So our fake universal suffrage will never become a real universal suffrage. And the task force trio went to district to so-called promote the universal suffrage, but that's the biggest scam show I've ever seen. And Dr. Goh Wing-man would even shout to members of the public. So I would like to ask the Undersecretary a question. Now, in a restaurant, you talk to a lady, and the lady asked, "Oh, if the central authorities pick a wife for you, would you accept it? Would you accept it?" Now you are not reacting, so I don't know what you want. So if this is true universal suffrage, then you would know what to say, but now you're just speechless. So we have seen 3 opinion polls results yesterday. Time's up. Next. Please stop speaking. Mr. Yu Chunling. Good afternoon. Chairman, you have also banned my group's name, saying that it's undignified. I would like to tell you my group's name, and I hope that the chairman won't say that I'm speaking foul language. Our name includes 689 and universal suffrage. Well, for the A31 decision, the self-government thinks that it's sacred, it's untouchable. For DAP's Christopher Chung and Zhang, every month they would say something that would become the laughing stock of all. And I don't understand how come they can become legislators. Mr. Lau, Under Secretary, can you tell DAB supporters in Hong Kong, according to the A31 decision, what things can these supporters do so that An Chang and Christopher Chung can become CE? Can they become CE candidates? I don't think that's the way. So for civil nomination, not only pan-democrats would benefit. And I would like to ask Mr. Lau 2 questions, but of course you won't answer. For Article 8 of the Basic Law, it is said that common laws will be enforced in Hong Kong. So according to the Basic Law, it is said that the NC would have to be broadly representative, but it hasn't given any details. So what is wrong with civil nomination? Why is it not in line with the Basic Law? And Mr. Lu Ping said that in 2007, Hong Kong's election is its own business. The central authorities will not intervene. However, now this is not happening. I think there is a ghost here. And also for 689, he always compare our system with the UK system. He said that there's nothing called civil nomination. However, the way of election is totally opposite from your proposal. So the 689, I think 689 is cheating us. When we look at the voting methods, it's even worse than the voting methods for high school students' union. How can we accept that this is a credible system? Next, Ms. Xin Yan. Chairman, you think my group's name is undignified. My group is actually a fan of fake universal coverage. Well, maybe it's because my name includes fake universal suffrage, so that's why the chairman does not like it. Now, you want us to respect the Legislative Council, but have the government officials respect Hong Kong people. For that Undersecretary sitting opposite to us, he didn't say a word when the government officials talked to the Students' Federation. You sat there just like a rubbish bin. Maybe you have forgotten it already. I can cite some later examples. Like Dr. Goh Wing-man, several weeks ago, he met a person who objected to the pocket affairs proposals, and Dr. Koh was very angry, and then he went away. And then reporter asked how come he was angry. He said that, I'm sorry, I couldn't control my emotion. Well, for 689, he's totally different. He can smile at protesters, and his smile hides his evilness. So getting angry at a citizen is different. Well, we talk about going to different districts. You say that you want to listen to views of people, but you are sitting on an open deck bus. Your feet haven't even touched the ground. So how can you talk to the people? Mr. Bernard Chen was in a restaurant, and a lady asked if the central authorities can pick a wife for you. I think most people won't like that. The pro-establishment camp has shot footages of some students lately and put them online. I think they are doing all sorts of ridiculous things to promote the so-called universal suffrage. And CS says that it is very difficult to restart the 5-step process next time, so you should pocket it now. So I think this means that we will have to pocket it forever. Well, people say that we may make Hong Kong collapse. However, if we pass your proposals, I think Hong Kong will definitely collapse. Some people say that the opposition camp should think twice whether you are doing the right thing, but I think you should search your soul. Are you doing this out of sincerity? Mr. Lo Kam Yen. Chairman, I am a representative of a business group. On the 22nd of April, the government put forward these proposals to the Legislative Council, and some legislators say that they will veto these proposals. We are really worried. Our organization thinks that these proposals are giving Hong Kong people an opportunity to select the EC through one person, one vote. We can forge consensus with this opportunity. Hong Kong is a financial center. Hong Kong's livelihood is very important, and we need a harmonious environment to do that. If we continue to have so many political disputes, it will be exhausting our society, and Hong Kong's economy will be further damaged. We should implement universal suffrage. We should stop fighting, and we should focus on solving the problems of society. Then we can enhance the competitiveness of Hong Kong, and then Hong Kong people can all have a better livelihood. If the proposals are vetoed for the next term's CE, we will stick to the old method. That is, we will just stick in the old ruts, and the eligible voters would have no votes, and we will have to start everything afresh. But at that time, we will have to obtain the approval of the NPCSC again, and we will need the consent of the CE and the approval of the electoral. So do you think that will work? The Pan-Democrats has always said that they will veto the proposals, but they have not put up a proposal which is in line with the basic law. So we really don't understand what they are up to. So I would like to ask the Pan-Democrats, if you veto these proposals, do you have a better proposal? And do you think your proposal will be passed by 2/3 of the electoral members? This is a big question mark, and this is a problem you should solve. We want to ask the Pan-Democrats, if you insist that you will veto the proposals, then you are ignoring the views of the majority. In 2016, when you stand for the electoral election, do you think you will get the support of people? The electoral will be voting on the proposals very soon. We hope that they can be passed as soon as possible so that Hong Kong people can realize their universal suffrage dream. And I hope the Pan-Democrats would attach importance to the mainstream view.
Well,
Next, Mr. Dennis Tong Tek Kit. Chairman, I come back from the U.S. I voluntarily take part in this meeting in my personal capacity. I'd like to appeal to everybody to treasure the opportunity to have one man, one vote to return the CE in 2017. In the process of constitutional development, Hong Kong is a part of the PRC. That's a fact. So, apart from thinking about the development needs of Hong Kong, we should also face the challenges of the country and also their development needs. There is a chance to have universal suffrage in 27. It's a big thing for Hong Kong. It is also a big event for the entire Chinese race. History has been kind to Hong Kong. And again, I think this time around, history has given Hong Kong an opportunity and a responsibility. I would appeal to you that, especially those who have a vote, you must show a courage and accommodation and also wisdom and help Hong Kong take this important step forward. Next one, Mr. Sham Tai Fung. I am just a member of the public. I exist in this big society, and I come here only to express my views and also refute certain views. I watched the meeting this morning, and it was said that young people have ideals, but it doesn't help. I'd like to respond to this. If there is a biochemical disaster, people will die, and you don't talk ideals to people who are dying. And some members say under the colonial government there is no democracy and you should like it now. But I think you can only cheat children. Maybe you think young people can easily be cheated, but at the time of Chris Patten, there were the new 9 groups and it is universal suffrage de facto. But Liu Ping cancelled the through train for political development, and now we have functional constituencies. Now the argument is to abolish the FCs, and as you know, there is a retrograde step on our road to democracy. How can you say the colonial government did not give us democracy? And Ng Liang Sing said it's good that your mother is picking your wife for you. So the proposals are retrogressive. You are taking us back to the Qing dynasty when women had to forcefully wrap their feet. So you are taking us back to the Qing dynasty, and that's very terrible. Many people emphasize the NPC framework, and you say we should not disrespect it. But then Mencius tells us if the emperor does what the emperor should do, then the people should do what they should do. But then this is not the case. You say if it is vetoed, we will have nothing. Just like if I propose to Carrie Lam and I say if you say no to my proposal, you will not be able to get married in the next 10 years. If I make a proposal to you, it's my responsibility. If you say no, then I will propose again. You should come up with proposals that are acceptable to the public. How can you dump the responsibility on the pan-democrats? Some people say they can't understand the mindset of young people. And they say young people do not have experience. I can say this to you. In management theories, in fact, your mindset will be based on your experience. In other words, if you don't understand the mindset of young people, then that means you are old. And then somebody said that iPhone was invented in Germany, but we are not going to study the option of proposals basing on the iPhone theories. Next, Chen Chi-ho. Thank you. Sometimes people say some people are too leftist or too rightist. Today we have a heated discussion, but the more I listen, the more confused I am. Because many young people say the proposals should be vetoed. But is that a step towards democracy, or are they talking about protecting the interests of the people with vested interests? If the proposals are vetoed, are we going to consolidate the rights of people with vested interests, or are we giving more rights to the people? So I don't understand. Are you conservative or are you progressive? We have a small circle political system. 1,200 people form the selection committee. The nomination and selection of the CE are both done by the 1,200 strong EC. But if the proposals are carried, the 1,200 people would only have the nomination right. and people will have the voting right. In other words, those with vested interests, if the proposals are carried, will have the powers very much clawed back. And those who now have no right to elect the CE will be given more rights, much more rights. People's rights will not be reduced, but what they don't have now will be given to them. Why is it not a proposal that will take democracy forward? Some people say the proposals are not ideal. They cannot call it universal suffrage. But let us look at the U.S. system. The president, who is supported by most candidates, may not be able to become a candidate because they have the electors' votes. Do you call that fake universal suffrage? And also in the UK, the people cannot nominate the premier. They cannot return the premier directly. Can you call the UK system fake universal suffrage? I use the examples of the US and UK. Please, order please. If you do not respect my right to speak, don't say you respect democracy. I like to cite the examples of the UK and US to show that whether it is universal suffrage, there may be different answers. Now, of course, a feudal system is not universal suffrage, but whether or not these proposals are universal suffrage proposals, people have different views. But then what is proposed by the SARG is more democratic than what we have now. Undoubtedly, yes. So I would say that the present proposals should be supported and passed. Next, Mr. Lau Yat Long. Good afternoon. I am Rimsky Yun of the Task Force Trio. I discussed with Emily Lau how we could take the direction of universal suffrage forward. Here, I'd like to repeat what I said sincerely. I think I should put it this way. At this crunch time, and since we don't have too much time left, if people still argue why there is no democratic element in the 2017 package, that would be most destructive. I hope members of the public will not pay attention to this, that there is no democratic element. Actually, in the next month or so, and the time that is left, we should try our best to work within a framework of screening. No matter how divided society is, I think first, we cannot overthrow this screening framework under the present political reality, because the central authorities and ourselves will not allow this to happen, because the CE so returned will not be under our control. I understand there are many different views in society, but we will try our best to work within this framework with screening, to try to get more transparency, more competition, and elements that will not allow democracy to be taken forward, hopefully to divert the public's attention that in fact they do not have a decision in the CE election. Last but not least, society, including legislators, whether they accept it, we don't care. And the responsibility of passing or not passing the package will be dumped on the opposition party. That is the decision. So now let us be more constructive. Let us see how, within the screening framework of August 31st, how we can mislead Hong Kong people to accept the framework. I think that is more important. That's all. Next one, Cam Hock Lin. Order, please. Order. Mr. Cam Hock Lin. I represent the We Care Resources Center. Young people are our precious resources and we should care about them. We should not be selfish. We may be corrupt, but we should not sell out the next generation. When there were riots in 1967, I was in primary school. I witnessed that page of Hong Kong's history. I used I was in a factory manufacturing portable computers, and we won the industrial gold medal from the governor. We pioneered the world's efforts in making those computers. So we need to trust our young people. If we do not have separation of powers, we'll just be like North Korea. There is election in North Korea, but what happens in the end? You might be killed by cannons because you can only do what the leaders tell you. People in North Korea have voting rights, but if there is no separation of powers, if we do not veto the August 31st framework, the next year will be like Hitler, who will embrace fascism and Nazism, and you will just become hand-raising machines. As Anne Chang, Hong Kong people are rich. Why don't we trust in Hong Kong people? Democracy is about diversity. Why don't we go for diversity and a civic society? Why do we want to go back so many steps to become North Korea? Please search your conscience. Are you selling out the Chinese race? In Asia, we were the first to embark on democratic revolutions. We would be as strong as 5 U.S. But we are much more remarkable than North Korea. We should not go back to the Qing dynasty. We should have trust in Hong Kong people and look forward. I appeal to members of this council. You must have a clear conscience and face the Chinese race, not just our own pockets, not just the powers to be. You should not just look at the interests of your party or yourselves. Do you agree? Next, Mr. Hong Pui Man. Chairman, good afternoon. I'm not as eloquent as Cam Hock Lin or those who mimic the task force trio. I may not be as smart, but I would like to say something and I will be brief. If you can trust the CCP, pigs will fly. You must understand the CCP's culture. The biggest fault of the CCP is that they change their policies overnight, and the people who they target also become different overnight. But then they are autocratic. They want all the powers. They are a cult. They are bandits. But I support Greater China. As Cam Hock Lin said, you cannot make it happen in 2017. That's all. Fan Chunhua. Thank you, Chairman. I think it is a big democratic step when we have one man, one vote, and democracy is one of our core values. If the proposals do not follow the laws but are based on other basis, then it will not be legitimate. No matter what, if 5 million people can have the chance of one man, one vote, it is better than not having it. It has nothing to do with pocketing it first, because one man, one vote is one man, one vote. I don't know what you mean by real or fake universal suffrage, but you know, in reality, we cannot overthrow the August 31st framework. So why don't you give us the chance to return the CE?
Mr. Hong Dik Fu, I would like to reiterate that one person, one vote is what all Hong Kong people want. It takes a direction and a progress to develop democracy. So comparing with 1,200 people selecting the CE now is a major step forward, because now 5 million people will be selecting the CE. So the electoral methods would have to be improved gradually. Otherwise, we are just harming the interests of Hong Kong people. If we do not move forward, we will just be going backward. And for legislators, they are holding people's mandates, and they should be pragmatic, practical, constructive, and they should help to push forward Hong Kong's democratic development. Their own interests should not override the interests of Hong Kong people. Next, Mr. Chiwala. I think it is important to seize the opportunity to implement universal suffrage because there is no one election method that is perfect. Now, for the Hong Kong SARCE selection method, we have new proposals, and people from different backgrounds can become aspirants. And also NC members can also vote by secret ballots. They can vote more on more than one person. So this person is not anointed by the central authorities. As young person, I don't think we should always argue about these methods. If you are unhappy with the system, can you change your way of doing things? Now you have the rules of the game. So within these rules, can you fight for democracy? Can you support people that you like and make sure that they can become candidates? If a person is so popular, I think he would have a good chance of becoming Hong Kong CE. And these proposals are put together in accordance with the basic law and the NPCSC framework. We should respect the law, respect the country, and respect the legal system. If you think the method for selecting the CE is inappropriate, well, we are all living in Hong Kong. We are all enjoying freedom. It's because we are protected by the law. So while you enjoy the rights given to you by the law, why don't you respect the law of Hong Kong? So I hope that we would stop arguing, seize the opportunity, and implement universal suffrage. Ms. Chen Ming-Kei. I come here today because I want to know more about the present political situation, and I want to listen to the views of others as well. However, I think my heart is broken because now people are swearing at each other and they are rude to each other. They say that this is innovative, this is democratic. So they use these as excuses to insult others, and they think by doing so they are fighting for democracy. Actually, democracy is a process. While we want to live in a more democratic environment, we have to know how we should fight for it. We must use reasonable means to do that. We have to respect others while we do it. If we fight all the time, if we shout all the time, and then we think these are democratic means, then to be frank, this society belongs to you in the future. If in the future everyone fights for the things they want in this way, then there is no need to talk. Now within the NPCSC framework, you may be unhappy with a lot of things. You would think there is a huge room for improvement. Then why don't you focus your energy on putting forward some practical proposals? Why don't you support people that you think should be candidates? However, you choose to focus on blaming others, criticizing others. Well, some of you may come here well prepared. However, some others just come here to vent their anger. If you want Hong Kong to really develop in the future, you should be more prepared. Democracy will develop step by step. There is always room for improvements. Nobody can come up with a perfect proposal. You like this proposal, he likes another proposal. We are talking about 5 million voters, and there is no consensus among these 5 million people. So why can't we start with one mechanism and then we will move forward. I hope that we can build on this foundation and then work hard together. Next, Mr. Ng-Kee-Chong. Mr. Ng-Kee-Chong. Well, Chairman, there have been lengthy discussions about constitutional developments. Now we are given some proposals. We think these proposals are reasonable, fair, and just. Now, both camps, the two camps have very diverged views, and the Hong Kong society is torn apart. Well, this will do Hong Kong no good. If we always focus on political disputes, our competitiveness will dwindle. So I hope that we can all seize this opportunity. It's the 70 legislators, including legislators from all political camps. I hope that you can really work hard for this. Now the NC will only have 1,200 people. However, there are still secret ballots and 2+1 votes. So we can do something. Now this has not been implemented, and we are already saying that it won't work. So let us do it first. Now it's time for members to ask questions. Members, which of you would like to raise questions? Ms. Starry Lee and Ms. Sit Ho and Mr. Porcher. Well, the meeting should wrap up by 4, so I'll give each of you 3 minutes, and then I'll ask Mr. Lau Kong-Wah, the Undersecretary, to respond. Ms. Starry Lee. Chairman, I have been sitting here and I've heard your views. Actually, my heart aches. Well, many young people come here saying that they want to fight for democracy. However, they use abusive remarks to express their views. I think that is meaningless. That does not help in the development of democracy. Because democracy is not only about an electoral method. We should all respect people. We shouldn't use abusive language. And we shouldn't use other means to stop other people from speaking. My heart really aches when I witness this. You think you are fighting for democracy. However, what you did, it didn't help. Now we are faced with a choice. Well, some people may not be happy with the proposals, and you think the proposals should be vetoed. But what would happen after that? That means the CE will continue to be picked by 1,200 people. So if you veto the proposals, you are actually supporting the present system. That is only 1,200 people who have the right to choose the CE. So that is exactly contrary to what you want. So do you have any practical proposals? And after vetoing these proposals, how can Hong Kong be more democratic? We have said this many times. We understand that in Hong Kong we have one country, two systems. And we have seen our states progressing. So if we implement this system now, I'm sure there will be improvement. So if you veto the proposals, you are actually supporting the selection of CE by 1,200 people, and that is a major obstacle for Hong Kong's democratic development. And Chairman, I would like to ask you a question. For members, we have our rules of procedures. However, for the deputations, I think the rules of procedures do not govern them, but many of them use the abusive language against our political party. So what kind of rules should they follow? I think for those people who speak, they should respect everybody. For unparliamentary remarks, we would not accept them. I hope they would be more careful. Next, Ms. Ho. I would like to thank the young people for coming here to speak their minds today. Though your way of expressing your views may be criticized, we have to explain to society why you are so angry. And young people, please pay attention to this. For those people who support powers, they would not fight with you because they have the police on their side. They have the laws on their side. They can tell you misleading, confusing things as if they were speaking the truth. What we need to do is to show them facts and evidence. We need to tell Hong Kong people what exactly this is. Actually, some Hong Kong people have indeed been misled by them. I can assure you that I will veto the proposals because they are not giving you a vote for genuine election. They have pre-selected 3 candidates for you. And you have to support these 3 candidates because they do not count the unmarked ballot papers. So if these proposals are passed, this is not a progress in democracy. You are just giving false mandate to this fake system. I think you have to tell your friends and relatives this. Now, young people, after 20 years, this world is yours. Just now, the lady said something quite right. However, for those people without means and power, they have to use such angry means because they have been bullied and hit for a long time, and now they are just saying that they feel hurt. So please equip yourself better. Now what we are facing is not whether the universal suffrage package will be vetoed. It will definitely be vetoed. In fact, there is a great challenge. We have to tell black from white. When people lie, you have to tell them in the face that they are liars. Otherwise, Hong Kong will lose its dignity. And then you will be regarded as so-called practical people, and you are helping Hong Kong's economy to develop, but that actually is the greatest damage to Hong Kong. Next, Mr. Porcher. I would like to thank the young people as well as all the people who come here on a Saturday afternoon. I am inclined to agree with Ms. Starry Lee. It seems that it's a waste of time listening to all those abusive remarks, but Ms. Chen Wing-kei has said something very true. That is, well, we understand why you are so angry. And I myself have also fought. I also got angry. I also got irrational. And I also did something outrageous. So that's understandable. However, I hope you can also understand this. It's not like what Ms. Ho said. As for those powerless, for the impoverished people, I think there are still civilized ways for them to fight for their cause. You know, you are innovative people. So in your promotional skills and in your ways of carrying this forward, I think you can come up with better methods.
Well, I think there are too many bad examples in the council. There are members who disregard the basis of our civilization just for the sake of their so-called ideals. Let us try to think about whether we can do something more and look at things from a different angle. Chairman, I'd like to use a little time to return some fairness to you, Chairman, because the names of some groups in fact, have been discussed at a meeting, and it is a collective decision of the Council here. It is not the individual decision by Mr. Tam Yu Chung, Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen, Mr. Albert Ho, Mr. Alan Leong took part in that meeting. Now, I cannot divulge too much of what happened in the meeting, but that was a collective decision, and I can say there was no voice of opposition before we adopted that policy. I hope you will understand that we have to strike a balance between allowing you to speak your mind freely and being creative and the solemnity of the Council. Or else it will be a place worse than a classroom in a school where people do not comply with the rules. And I like to say that please make use of your enthusiasm to understand affairs in Hong Kong and don't just repeat what newspapers say. Say something new. Don't just say the officials do not disembark from the bus, etc. You should be much more creative. You should be smarter. You should not just copy the platitudes. Thank you, Paul Chair, the Vice Chairman, for explaining on my behalf. Mr. Stephen Ho, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the public, for coming to LegCo. After listening to all the views, including those in the morning, we must admit that Hong Kong is a multifarious society. There are different views. The design of a political system must be accommodating. When the results are out, if you don't like them, you should not attack it or destroy harmony in society. That is uncivilized. I think by having democracy, it may be worse than not having democracy. We must reflect on this together. We heard some people in society say, including some friends who are here today, they are very creative. All right, but while you are creative, I hope you will direct that to the details of the political proposals. And I hope that in the future you can come up with more views for our democratic development. Like Deng Xiaoping, he was extremely innovative in coming up with one country, two systems. If he would talk to Queen Elizabeth II like this, if you don't give us democracy or don't give me back Hong Kong, I will fight you to the end, etc. You must adopt a solemn stance. And some pro-establishment members compare or liken constitutional development to picking a wife. I think that's not a very good comparison. Constitutional development is something very solemn. We must be very careful in drawing analogies to constitutional development. And I cannot think of any analogy. Just now, Mr. Chen Chi-ho mentioned that this is a small circle election. Now, we want to have some democratic progress. That is also one voice in society. I have a similar view as he does. But with regard to the 1,200 strong NC, there is a historical reason to it. Some people said you should ask Lau Kong-wah whether he could be a member of the NC. Indeed, yes, because the 4 sectors include the Legislative Council, the District Council, and also professional sectors. Maybe he can be an elector. It is just that the 1,200 NC is returned by indirect election. We have direct election, indirect election, and also consultation to return members of the NC. If you have new views with regard to the basic law and our electoral system, then you have better reason to support it or veto it. Okay, last but not least, can I ask Lau Kong-wah, the Undersecretary, to give us consolidated response? Thank you, Chairman, and I thank the deputations and individuals for coming and speaking. First of all, I'd like to thank some friends for saying that they support the package proposed by the government. In fact, many friends have waited for this for very long. Some people say This is an opportunity that they have been waiting for very long. And some people say this is once in a century opportunity. Indeed, this is the first time ever in Hong Kong that we can have one man, one vote. And we are just one step away from this target. In the coming month, if we can secure 2/3 majority of the legislators' support, we will be able to embrace this opportunity that is once in a century, and we will continue to secure the support of the LegCo. Some members asked questions of the proposals. Let me respond like this. Number one, civic nomination, which is still mentioned by some deputations. If you read the basic law, the power of nomination rests with the NC. There is no civic nomination. If you still want to secure it or fight for it, I'm afraid this cannot be realized in the one person, one vote election system. I hope we can follow the basic law and the NPCSC decision in order to take democracy forward. Some people asked about the number of 1,200, that this figure is not in the basic law. Actually, in the NPCSC decision, the number is set at 1,200, including 4 sectors. The EC and the NC, which are both 1,200 strong, have a difference between them. The EC enjoyed the powers of nomination and selection, but in the future, the 1,200 people only have nomination power. The voting right is given back to 5 million eligible voters. From that angle, this proposal must represent a leapfrog step forward in democracy, and is worth our support. Number 3, some friends talk about optimization. In Annex 1, Paragraph 7 of the Basic Law, it says that if necessary, a procedure can be followed under the Basic Law to make some improvements, as long as there is the need, and if we are availing ourselves to the actual situation in Hong Kong. Chairman and I have followed the discussion throughout the day. I am worried that if the proposals are vetoed, I know there is a lot of criticism against the CE who was returned by 1,200 people. If you veto the proposals, then we will only be able to mark time, and the 1,200 strong NC or EC will still return the CE. And the Legislative Council will not be able to have universal suffrage to return all the members. We don't know when the next opportunity will knock. Many times we mention dual universal suffrage, but if you veto the proposals today, the original intent of having dual universal suffrage will go down the drain. So I hope legislators will think twice. Just now, Ms. Sitho mentioned powers. If we have the NC 1,200 people viewed as people with power, then if you veto the proposals, all 70 LC members will be ex officio members of the NC. If you veto the proposals, 70 legislators will still be people with power. But members of the public who should enjoy the voting rights will become people with no powers. They will remain powerless. Would you want to have something like that? Shouldn't you think twice? Last but not least, Mr. Chairman, I will make this point as some members also brought it up. This time around, we would like to resolve political arguments that have been with us for a long time. I hope the entire society can concentrate efforts to improve our economy and our livelihood. This is our common wish. I hope we can support the proposals this time around so we can join hands and go forward. Good. It is time to end the meeting today. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, deputations and individuals. Meeting adjourned.